Hi, Professor. Let me introduce myself. I am Yağmur Çelik. I am a third-year psychology student. I am PsiNossa. I am an interview columnist at PsiNossa. Welcome again. If you are ready, we can start the interview. We'd love to hear your story before we move on to our interview. Can you tell us how your journey started? How did you decide to pursue the fields at social psychology and personality psychology?
How did I get into that area? I mean, how did I become a social psychologist?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good question. I've been doing it so long, I have to remember when I started. How shall I answer? It's a complicated answer. I grew up in poverty in the Bronx, New York, in a ghetto. And in those times, there were gangs of boys, even gangs of girls. And the gangs sometimes did good things, but usually did bad things. I mean, like rob stores and things. And so I was always interested in, and I never was part of it because I was smaller and very skinny. I had just gotten out of the hospital after 5 months. So I was frail, but I would observe how someone would join a group and how the group would have an initiation. Here's what you have to do to become a group member. And even though these were, 10, 12-year-old kids, what they did was similar to what every group does. There is an initiation. You have to go through some experiences to show you belong to this group. So that's when I first began to be interested in groups, mostly how groups convert good kids into bad kids, into kids who steal and lie and cheat. And then later, when I started in a career in psychology, when I was a student, I was interested also in personality, but I realized that personality tests, as we have them then, did not predict behavior very well. What predicted behavior well is knowing something about the group each individual was in. And so I moved toward my interest in social psychology as my main focus in life, in professional life.
Thank you for your answer. Can you tell us about the Stanford prison experiment in which you took on the role of prison inspector? In another interview, I read that you said, I lost my sense of compassion during the experiment. What was your reason for saying this?
Yeah, so a little bit about the prison study. I think everybody knows about it. The prison study had its 50th anniversary last year. It was 50 years old. And what it is it's a demonstration, following up your first question, of how individuals can be dominated by a situation. And so when you put good people in a bad situation, and prisons are always a bad situation, the question is, does the people change the bad situation, or does the bad situation change people? And the Stanford prison experiment showed how extremely the good people we put into that study, good and smart, healthy college students, when they were put in that situation, the situation dominated them. So the boys who were playing the role of guards became cruel, inhumane. The boys who were playing the role of prisoners had emotional breakdowns because of the suffering that the guards imposed. And so what was unique about the study is most experiments in psychology last only 1 hour. In this study, it lasted 24 hours every day, day after day after day. The guards worked 8-hour shifts. There was a morning shift, afternoon, evening, and the prisoners lived in their cells 24 hours a day. And the study was supposed to go for 2 weeks, but I ended it after 6 days because it was out of control. The guards were becoming creatively evil, brutalizing the prisoners in many different ways. And the prisoners were having emotional breakdowns. So I had to end the study, but the main, I was going to end the study probably on Sunday. The study began on Sunday, August 14th, 1971. But on Thursday, a young female psychologist who I started dating came down and saw the cruelty that the guards were doing and that I was allowing. I never did anything cruel, but I allowed the guards to do that without stopping it. And so she told me, you have lost your compassion. I don't understand because I know you from every other situation. You're somebody who loves students, and these are not prisoners, they're not guards, they're students. And you put them in a situation where they are harming. And so I said, oh my God, you're right. The situation changed me as well as the participants. So we ended the study the next day. And I regained my compassion.
Thank you for your answer. You have written more than 15 books in your lifetime. What's your motivation when you start writing a book? I read in your Time Paradox book that you said, make up for yesterday, enjoy today, perfect tomorrow. Could you explain this sentence a little more to PsiNossa readers? What's your advice to us about the purse living in the moment?
Wait, say that again. I mean, so the introduction was, you said I've written 60 books and 600 articles. And then what do you want me to comment on?
What's your motivation when you start writing a book?
Oh, the motivation is to share my ideas. In the past, it was share my ideas with my students, but now it's to share my ideas with people around the world. I'm a little egocentric. I think some of my ideas are good, and the only way to share them before we had social media was to put the ideas in a book and then have the book published in many, many languages. So my most important book was called The Lucifer Effect, and it has now been published in more than 20 languages around the world. And so students are reading this in many, many different countries. Now, people share their ideas on social media. Now, I don't use social media only because I still think about writing not only books, but writing articles or essays that I share with other people.
Thank you for your answers. In a TED Talk titled, How the Ordinary People Turn into Monsters, you started your talk with the question, what drives people wrong? So can you tell us about how people can easily become heroes and how we can stand out in a difficult station? What are the critical points in the record?
Yeah, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of conditions that make good people do bad. One condition around the world is hunger. Many people, as we talk, sadly, in Syria, in Afghanistan, in Africa, are starving. So when you are starving, you will do anything to get food for your family. So you will cheat, you will steal. And even if you're not starving, rich people don't steal because they have all they need. Poor people steal. They steal food from a grocery store. They steal other things that that their family needs. So poverty is one reason good people do bad things. Another reason good people do bad things is to demonstrate they have the power to dominate other people. That again, now this is more true of men than women. For men, it's important to feel dominant. That is, here are people who I control in various ways. They need me. They need. It's like The Godfather in the Italian movie. So they need me. I have power in various ways. I control some. I control food, or I control jobs, and so people have to come to me to get food or get jobs, and so I control them, saying, "Here's what they must do in order for me to give them what they want." So its power can lead people to do good things, but power can also lead to corruption. That is, using your power for evil, using your power to dominate other people.
Thank you for your answer. You are now head of the Epic Imagination Project, a program that works to study hero before behavior and educate people on stage for acting heroically. What's the purpose of the program? Can you tell us about what you have achieved from this program?
Yes, okay. It's the main thing I'm doing now with my life. And I want to get your students listen in your program to get involved in our program. So the Heroic Imagination Project is started in California as a nonprofit foundation. The goal is to teach students in America and everywhere in the world how to be what I call everyday hero. That is, somebody who is willing to stand up, speak out when they see evil, to challenge it in different ways, but also to help other people in need, people who are poor, if you have that you share your food, people who are hurt, that you come to their aid. So essentially, it's a program that instructs people how they could become an everyday hero. So we need not military heroes, not political heroes, but ordinary people. And I'm focusing on students, how a student anywhere in the world could learn how to be effective, how to do the right thing when other people are doing the wrong thing or other people are doing nothing. And so we have lessons that I have developed that we share with groups around the world. And now our program is in 20 nations around the world. It's in Italy, it's in Hungary, it's in Poland, and many, many different countries. And when we finish, so if you go on the website, heroicimagination.org, www, it indicates how your group can sign up to join with us, to learn from us, learn our lessons. And now we are doing many new things that are exciting, even for me after all these years.
Thank you for your answer. Can you tell us about the main idea of the broken glass theory, which you were inspired by an experiment you conducted in 1969? For this theory, it's necessary not to allow the first glass to be broken or the first graffiti pollution the environment. Otherwise, we cannot prevent the bad course. What did you mean actually?
Yeah, so this is, you're going way back. It's like 50 years. So broken windows theory is an idea I had, again, growing up in poverty. that when you walk down a street in any city in the world and you see a broken window that's not fixed, that somebody broke the window, maybe they stole something, and then if the window is not fixed within the next day or two, then people get the idea that it is okay in this area to steal, to do bad things. The same thing, broken windows could be in an automobile. You see a broken window in an automobile, that somebody broke the window to get something that was inside the car. And so a broken window is a symbol of an area where illegal things are happening. And it increases the likelihood that when you're in this area, this part of your town, in any place in the world, then it increases the likelihood that you will contribute, you will do illegal things, steal, lie, cheat, etc. So the idea is simple: fix the broken window as soon as possible. Do not allow your town, your city, to have garbage in the street. That's the same kind of thing. So the idea is people look for signs when you're going, especially when you're traveling in a different country. You look for signs. Is this neighborhood safe or not? Right? You never want to go to an area that's not safe. But not safe means there are broken windows that are not fixed. There are automobiles that are stolen, are broken into. There's garbage on the street. So again, the message of my broken windows theory is never allow broken windows in your town to go unfixed. Repair them as soon as possible in order to prevent more broken windows from happening in the future.
Thank you for your answer. What do you think about the feature of social psychology and personality psychology?
Yeah, social psychology has a great future. I hope all of you will take more social psychology courses. Social psychology teaches us how our behavior is influenced by good and bad situations, and how we should be able to decide to avoid bad situations and enter good situations. And so again, for me, social psychology is the most interesting and important part of psychology. That it helps people everywhere understand that you're always part of a group. You started in a family. Unless you grew up, even if you grew up in a nursery, if you were abandoned, you're in a nursery with other children, with care providers. So human beings are always part of a group. We're never social isolates. And so understanding how the group influences your behavior, and then ultimately how you can influence the group ideally to do good things. So that's where the Hero Project comes in. How can I, as an individual, influence other people in my group that we all are going to do heroic things? We're all going to do help our neighborhood, help our nation do better and better things.
Thank you for your answer. If we could send a message to PsiNossa readers and psychology students around the world, what would it be?
Oh, the message is think about how your actions could make the world better in your family, in your neighborhood, in your community, and in your country. That is, to give student power, to say you have power to make a change. You have power to do good things, that people observe your behavior, and that you will influence other people to do good things. So it's little things like helping a crippled person cross the street, helping an elderly person walk up the stairs in their apartment, helping carrying groceries for the old person from the grocery store to their home. So essentially, it's always being aware, what can you do to make the world better for some other person? We live in a world mostly where each of us is ego-centered. It's always I, me, it's Phil. So we want to change that to say, you should be sociocentric. Instead of always saying I always begin by saying we. We should do this rather than I should. And then it's we replaces I, us replaces me. And so it's really a basic change in how you think about yourself in relation to other people. And so it's democratic, it's sociocentric, as I said, and that this is an idea that I've been promoting now more and more in the future.
Thank you for your answer. Would you want to add anything to your speech?
What? Say again.
Would you want to add anything to your speech?
Let's see now. Add anything. Yeah, psychology is now more interesting than it ever was before. There are more parts of psychology, even when I was a student. There's biological psychology, there's health psychology, there's area of peace psychology. And interestingly, when I was a student, most of the students were men. Now in psychology, most of the students are female. And it's female psychologists, professors, who introduced health psychology. We never had it when I was a student. It's female psychologists who introduced the whole area of peace psychology. And now the most important thing is a focus on climate. Climate change is the most important issue of our generation. The climate is changing for the worse almost every place in the world, and in unpredictable, extreme ways. So in some places like California, where I live, we have a drought. There's not rained a drop of water in 6 months. In other places, even in America, there's huge flooding. Whole towns are being washed away. In some places, there are forest fires. In other places, they have freezing cold. So the effect of climate change, meaning that the climate change is really, the earth is heating up and the water around every place in the world is becoming warmer by just a few degrees. But that changes everything because as the water evaporates into the air, then it creates all these climate crises. So the world is in a crisis now. And so it becomes important for every student in every country. 1 second, let me shut this. For every student in every country to say, let's organize together. What can we do? We want to stop littering. We want to reduce carbon emissions from cars, from our homes. Ideally, in countries where you can afford it, we want to have more solar energy or windmills to create. So we have to not rely only on carbon for our energy, for our cars, for our homes, because carbon emissions in the air only make the problem worse, make the problem of climate change even worse. So this is something I'm worried about. I'm worried that every year, the parts of the world get hotter and parts of the world get colder. Recently in the Alps, in Switzerland, there was huge ice flow. That is, the ice started melting, ice that has been there for 1,000 years because of the warming air is melting and killed many, many hikers in the mountains in Switzerland. And we know in Alaska, there are huge chunks of ice that were like part of a mountain that are now broken off and floating in the sea. It also means that animals, fish and sea animals, walruses and seals, will have more and more difficulty surviving. So it is the problem of our time, and it's something that students should organize. Students for, it's called a sustainable climate, that our climate can sustain us, producing proper food, proper air in the future.